Welcome to Parenting Pioneers, the podcast where we journey through the vibrant communities of urban life, discovering the opportunities and challenges that await today's working parents. In a world that's changing faster than ever, how do we raise resilient, curious, and empowered kids? So whether you're navigating the digital playground, seeking local adventures, or striving for that ever-elusive work-life harmony, we're here to guide, inspire, and connect. I'm your host, David Watkins, and together we'll explore stories, strategies, and talk with experts that empower us to thrive in the parenting landscape. So parents, pioneers, let's find our way. We want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Plan My Kids. As busy parents, we all know the stress of trying to plan and organize activities for our kids. That's where Plan My Kids comes in. They make planning and attending kids' activities easy, offering personalized programs tailored to your family's interests and needs. So if you're feeling overwhelmed with planning kids' activities, let Plan My Kids take the wheel. Visit their website at planmykids.com and start your plan today. Remember, with Plan My Kids, you got this. And most importantly, your kids know this. Thanks again to Plan My Kids for their support of the podcast. In this episode of Parenting Pioneers, Ethan Gabriel from Activate Good and Amy Gardinier from Givefinity delve into the transformative impact of youth volunteerism. They share insights on how volunteering aids in the personal development of young individuals, fosters a sense of community, and equips them with valuable life lessons. The discussion touches on the challenges and opportunities to engage youth in meaningful volunteer work, the importance of finding passion-driven volunteer opportunities, and the role of technology in simplifying the volunteering process. Let's explore the power of youth volunteerism and its potential to shape a better future. Welcome, Ethan and Amy. I'm so glad to have you here today on this episode of Parenting Pioneers. How are you today?
Doing well. Glad to be here.
Yes. Thanks so much for having us.
Awesome. Well, I'm really excited to talk about youth volunteering today. Just to help the audience get to know you guys a little better, Ethan, can you share your journey about how you sort of got to be the youth program director at Activate Good?
Yes. So my current position is the Youth and College Programs Coordinator with Activate Good. I have been there for just over a year, which is very exciting to be able to be at a place for, early on in my career for a year. Essentially, when I was in college, I was always just trying to find more places to get out in my community and connect with my community a lot more. And that led me to my university's chapter of Alpha Phi Omega, our service fraternity, and, gain opportunities to make community and also get off campus to serve. I was kind of immersing myself in that organization from being a formal chair to a DEI coordinator to eventually one of the vice presidents of the organization. And seeing this role opportunity come up was very exciting. I don't have a background necessarily, say, in education, but I do have a background in just working with students on a more like peer-to-peer level. And that's kind of what I've ran with thus far, trying to relate with them and, learning along the way.
Great. Well, it sounds like you found a good fit based on the experiences that you have and sort of your interests, and doors for opportunities just kind of opened up for you. So glad to that it worked out for you. And Amy, Givefinity is such a helpful platform to help volunteers and coordinators. Can you explain how you started this company and how this mission prompted you?
Yes, I would love to share that. So similarly to Ethan, I really got into volunteering when I was in college, and that has just become just part of the fabric of my life. And so getting married and having kids, my husband has similar passions with giving back. And we knew that that was something important we wanted to do with our children. So fast forward, they approach high school and they have taken to it, and they are busy volunteering volunteering for different clubs and organizations, and they're running around with a pen and paper, and there's a lot of angst of forgetting the paper or forgetting the signature. And so Givefinity was really born at our kitchen table out of a need and frustration of how can we digitize and make it easier, because what we found was kind of that the logistical management of it being kind of an archaic system was bringing them down in their desire to volunteer. So we were like, how can we make this easier? If the teens you know are anything like the ones I know, rarely will they forget their phone. So we digitized the volunteer hour tracking process through a mobile app for volunteers to be able to use, as well as an enterprise software system that schools, nonprofits, for-profits, Greek organizations can utilize to manage, so that they're not having to do the data entry and all the laborious things that go into that if you're using spreadsheets and pen and paper.
Great. So there's nothing like having a problem that you've experienced and trying to solve that problem for yourself and others. And I can certainly appreciate that. 2 kids myself, and going through that process and having to fill out the paper and document the time was always a challenge. And they still do that for driving school as well. So,
I know,
right? So I think a lot of for what's top of mind for all of our youth is coming out of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And it certainly had an impact on everyone, and especially our youth. And so from your experience, and I'll start with you, Ethan, has volunteering helped young people navigate post-COVID in any way?
I definitely would love to believe so. I think that volunteering has been able to get people out in their community to create a sense of community. I think going into the pandemic and everything turning digital, we're able to see a lot more of what is happening around the world from a more personal point of view. You know, a lot of people have become a lot more candid about what they post online. They are posting, videos of what they're doing in their day to day. Also on top of, putting their experiences of what they're going through in their lives, whether they're in an area that, might have a social issue. And people are able to kind of feel their pain, their grief. And I think a lot of us who are able to witness it from our phones, from our laptop, are able to connect to it, whether it is a cultural connection, a personal connection. And so that has led people to be more socially conscious, and also, they want to make a change. I think, especially for the younger generation, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, they want to make impacts in their communities, and they are more prone to act on something if it feels right for them. And, seeing the different ways that people are able to serve now, the opportunities are almost endless of what people can do. So there are people who are doing volunteering and they might not even really know it, whether it's, using a certain filter in their TikTok video, that, the money that the creator made, is going towards a specific cause. And, a lot of people are voicing their opinions now to be like, it's a lot easier than before. And so I think with our youth, they really want to get out there, and those who are able to make the efforts are really going all in. And those who may not have the resources to do so are trying to find it, or trying to find different ways to work with what they have.
Makes sense. And, I think to some degree in my own experience with my kids, there was a lot going on during the pandemic, not just the pandemic. There's a lot of social issues that were being addressed, and especially for the younger generation. I actually feel like at least one of my kids was really active in volunteering. Like it was something they could do, like to go out, to be outside, to even if it was just, going out and picking up litter. And Amy, what have you seen?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think that those COVID years, life shut down in so many ways. And so the things that our kids were used to engaging with, a lot of those activities were on pause for a long time. And to your point, I think that they had more time. And so I think that that generation really researches things, to what you were saying, Ethan, and there are passions and social issues that they are really wanting to affect change in. And so I think volunteering allowed them to have a voice. I think it also got them, so much of life was digitized. And so it was beautiful, like so many different opportunities came out that way. But I think the volunteering also in person gave them a sense of community, and gave them a sense of being able to relate to people face to face and some of those socio and emotional issues and things, to be able to talk to somebody. And that was really something that came out of it as well.
Yeah, I think so. And we've talked a little bit about youth and millennials and Gen Z and Gen A. Like, do you think that the attitudes vary between those generations at all, or, how they compare to older generations?
I think a lot of the mentalities of people who want to volunteer across all generations have been fairly the same. People want to help their communities in whatever capacity possible. I believe the Junior Achievement in Arizona is one of the resources that I tend to look at when it comes to volunteer data for teenagers. It showcases that Gen Z, Millennials, Gen X, and Baby Boomers are the same percentage of as to why they want to serve, and it's it makes them feel good. They're contributing to the community, and then what's unique with more and Gen Z is that a lot of them are also doing volunteering to help boost their resume, whether it's for work, whether it's for college. Working with kids now, it has not been long since I have been in school, but seeing the kids that I work with and their goals are things that I wish I had when I was 13, 14, 15. I was working with one student in particular. I was talking with a student and they were just like, oh yeah, I'm trying to volunteer to get hours to boost my high school resume to get into a really good high school. And at first I was like, aren't you in high school right now? But then they explained further, like, oh, when I'm a junior, I can get into a STEM academy. And, I really want to gear the work that I have going towards college. And so I'm seeing a lot more teenagers volunteer in certain areas. So if they want to go to a school that is specified in medicine, they're going to try to see if they can volunteer at a local doctor's office or any organization that is rooted in healthcare. Or if they want to volunteer and they want to go to an art school, they're going to look for more of these art-based area nonprofits and organizations. And so they're coming into it with a lot more intention based off of what their interests are and what their values are. And that's just very exciting to see.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that the youth, like, they are so inspiring. I walk away from so many meetings with them and I'm like, I want to be you when I grow up. Like, they are so intentional and just go-getter mentality that it is really inspiring. And so, to the point where sometimes I get frustrated when people are like, oh, teens and I'm like, you haven't been around the teens then, because they are on fire for making our world a better place. And I think that they do find a lot of sense of community and belonging when they volunteer. And I think that the baby boomers are really, in talking to a lot of them who are volunteering, they have more time on their hands and they're really wanting to give back and share their experiences and also find a sense of purpose and belonging. So it's kind of funny to see both ends of the generations looking for those same things. And I think those of us who are here in the middle, the millennials and the Gen X, our time is a little bit more strapped as we're caring for parents and raising kids and working. But I think that we also want to find ways to give back, and we just have to be a little bit more creative of finding ways to do it that are tied a little bit more to our everyday rhythms. Like for parents, like if your kids are involved in sports, maybe it's a natural fit to help on their school teams, whether you're coaching or refereeing or that sort of thing. So.
Yeah, and we've touched on a couple concepts here that I want to pull on the threads a little bit. So you talked about finding a sense of community, and there's this like concept of having your third place, right? When I was out of college, there's actually a coffee shop in town that's called Third Place. I was like, why is it called Third Place? And I didn't know that it's like, okay, well, you're either at work or you're home or you're at the third place. And for kids, you're either at school, you're home, or you're at some third place. So have you found that volunteering has created a place for youth to kind of come together that might have similar ideas or perspectives? Seems like volunteering would be a good way to find kids that have similar interests as you. Do you find that true?
I definitely think so. I think it's a little bit harder in the context of volunteering, only because you're not necessarily sure, how your experiences are going to go each time. I say if you're a student and you are, volunteering for your club, National Honor Society, Key Club, organizations like that, and it's just a list of opportunities, and you might sign up for one, you'll be the only person that comes there. You might feel isolated at first, and it's a matter of making the experience what you want it to be. So if you feel compelled to chat with the staff members or other volunteers who are there, then you're really creating that sense of third place in the community, especially if you keep going back to it. I think there's community and third place in the organization you are part of when you are serving. But then in terms of actual serving, it's really more a matter of going back to that same place over and over again. Third place is that sociology term that is, a sense of public relaxation. So, you're at home, you're at work, you're at school, and yes, you're able to find relaxation in both of those places. But third place is that place where you can truly let your hair down with people that you're probably not going to receive a lot of judgment from. They're getting to know you, who you are, in the way that you want them to know you. So not necessarily shaping completely, but it's a place where you're kind of creating another safety net. And when it comes to certain spaces to volunteer that does allow that, I feel like you'll see that more in a more committed volunteer role. So whether it's volunteering at the diaper bank every single Wednesday, or you are, a social media volunteer for a local radio station where you're getting to learn the staff who works there. I think it's one of those things where I think everyone should have a third place. It's definitely very essential in a person's development to kind of have more places that they can find resources and safety in.
No, I think you bring up a good point. Like, if you're you may go to your third place with people, right? Like, I'm gonna meet people that I already know, and I'm gonna meet this place, as you mentioned, to kind of let your hair down, be comfortable, not feel judged. Or you can create a sense of third place, but it requires some repetition, right, to get to know people. So I think that's a really valid point. And if you're just going to volunteer somewhere once, you're not going to have that sense of community unless you're doing it every Saturday or something, right? So let's also talk about something that I have mixed feelings about, and it's this having requirements for volunteering. On the one hand, I think it's good in that it exposes kids to something that maybe they wouldn't do otherwise. And on the flip side of that, it's like, well, shouldn't kids and their families just want to volunteer?
Yeah, you know what? I think we're definitely seeing trends where certain states, North Carolina is not one of them, but Arkansas is a great example where they just enacted legislation where their high schoolers, starting with the freshman class, are going to have to complete 70 hours of volunteer time to graduate. And so there's been a lot of people that are super excited, and there's been a little bit of pushback on that as well. Part of the pushback is logistically making sure that they have those opportunities, and then how are they tracking them, which is why I can speak because I've talked to a lot of those schools. And I think that if done well, it can give students an opportunity to try on different things, like if they aren't sure what they want to do later on in life, the opportunities to be able to help at a local doctor's office or something in the medical field, like working at a hospital, volunteering at a hospital, they might realize this is not at all what I thought it was going to be. And so then they can make a shift. Or they might volunteer with, like at their local elementary school, helping a little one to read and think, oh, I don't like little kids and I would never do this. And they're like, oh my gosh, I really can connect with this kid because I might have the same struggles. And you know what? I need to be involved in something education wise or with youth and that sort of thing. So I think it's a great opportunity, again, for kids to kind of try on different hats and get different experiences. And to Ethan's point earlier, you know, that repetition of doing things, I think also affords itself to these teens getting great leadership opportunities and to expand. I know that in watching my own kids as they've gotten involved in different organizations and are given more responsibility, like the sense of pride and ownership that they feel is just beautiful to see. And I see that carry over into other aspects of their life.
I'm going to ditto everything Amy said. I think it's actually really great that schools are starting to require service. I am a huge believer of trying to get people out of their community because I want people to, you know, see what's going on. I feel like there are organizations out there who, one, need the extra hands, and you never know if you can be like that golden set for people to truly, you know, make a difference in an organization. You know, you never know what you could find. As Amy said, you might learn something you love or something that you really don't like. And, you know, take the opportunity to learn it now. So you have the time to make those shifts that, you know, you see are best fit. You know, working with kids in a volunteering context, there's definitely some attitudes also when it comes to that you witness. So there are some kids who are there to get the hours and get out, and they might not take anything from the experience that they have, or at least they think they're not going to take anything from their experience. And, you know, they realize 3-4 years down the line where they might think back to that one time where, you know, oh, I once volunteered at the soup kitchen, and, you know, probably one of their first jobs when they're 16, you know, might be at a restaurant. And so, you know, they're able to take those applicable experiences. Or it might be a thing where you have just exposed them to their life calling. Something that I witness a lot in my programming, with my teen program, I do want to create more of like that club feel, but you know, there is a lot of teens in Wake County, Durham County, and I might have that one and done volunteer, but what I see that volunteer, they're going back to that one organization that we exposed them to that first time.
Right. I think exposure is the key there. So if I think about, you know, mandatory volunteering in schools, like school's all about exposure, right? It's exposing you to math, it's exposing you to history. So why not exposure to volunteering as well? Because you never know, like there might be that spark there. They may either for the sense of what it means to volunteer or the spark of wherever they volunteered for, you know, as far as that organization that they're helping. So who knows, right? So I do think that's key.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of trends toward that holistic education that we're seeing, where I think something out of the pandemic, you know, standardized test scores became optional. There's a whole lot of controversy over those standardized test scores. And I think that volunteering is a way for these students to differentiate themselves, you know, particularly in a county like Wake County, where you have a lot of kids that have really high GPAs and they're playing sports. And on paper, if you're just looking at those numbers, they look really similar. And so the volunteering, I think, evens out the playing field. And it also has people rise above. Like maybe you're brilliant, you just don't test really well, but you have really excelled and gained a lot of leadership in volunteering, then that's going to set you apart. And I think it gives our college admissions officers or hiring managers or whatever your next step is after high school, a way to show who you really are and what you care about. And I think that hopefully there is going to be a continued shift away from just looking at those numbers and looking at a person wholly, and what they have done and given back to their community as a deciding factor.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. So I think the separation, or the ability to differentiate yourself in a college application, absolutely. I think I do wonder, there's some kids I feel like that they are overachievers, and it's just like they just do whatever they can to just like hit the number, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I do worry that there's a little bit of that versus I'm doing it for the right reasons, right? I mean,
I think kind of what we've instructed our kids is, yeah, it might start off as a checkbox of, okay, I've got to get this done because I'm a part of Key Club. But we've really encouraged them to try to go after things, maybe now that I'm like, oh, you should do this or you should do that, but letting them take ownership over it. And so things that they are interested in or passionate about, I find that if they have buy-in and they're choosing it, then it's going to go a whole lot better. And what started off as just a checkbox could become a passion for them. We have definitely seen that. And kind of like as an aside, I think it's also kind of along those lines of it being a checkbox. I think it's our teens, the statistics are alarming. Like their mental health is at a crisis state. There is a whole lot of depression and anxiety in ways that we haven't seen in the youth before. And I think the volunteering helps them get out of their phones and maybe social media comparison and feeling terrible about themselves, and engaging in the world in different ways helps give them a sense of pride and purpose, and maybe realizing, yes, there are people that are better off than me, but there are also a whole lot of people that are worse off than me, and I can help make a difference. And so I have seen story after story of the benefits of that too.
Something that I was taught early on when I first started college was it's better to be like a foot wide and a mile deep than a mile wide and an inch deep. And so like going back to like kids overdoing it, I see so many students, when I chat with them, oh, I'm in this club, this club, this club. I also play tennis, and I'm also, trying to start doing a job. And, it all sounds amazing. And I always ask them, I'm like, how do you do it all? I'm like, are you going to bed? Are you eating? Are you like, those are the questions that I'm asking. And, at one point I was them. And, one thing that I would love to tell my younger self is to slow down, because I think what happens too is when you're trying to do everything everywhere all at once, it's one of those things where you feel like you can do it all, but you are expending yourself like beyond your capacity. And that results in people being tired a lot more, being like exhausted. And like people think, oh, I'm creating like mental toughness. Like, no, like you're actually hurting yourself a lot more. And, so like I want more kids to just look at what is more inspiring to them, like what connects with them more. So if your passion is, theater, definitely lean into that. If you wanted to pursue other things, you can as well, but, really create that. It's really a matter of creating that balance. So, instead of, volunteering at 1,000 different places or being a part of 10 clubs, maybe pick 2 or 3 that really speak to who you are and what you're interested in. And, ride those for as long as you would like for them to. Or if you do like trade off, dedicate 1 club to a year. That's things are shifting beyond, what records you've achieved in the past. It's, what did you do to get to that record? What did you do to achieve that award? And, beyond hitting these achievements, who are you after that? Because if you just look at what you have done, who are you now? That's the bigger question, because when you get it done, it feels like ticking off a box. I remember there was one award that I worked so hard to receive, and then when I got it, it was like, oh, I have this award. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, what have you done since you received it? And if you haven't continued past it, then it looks like you were doing that for the wrong reasons. It's one of those things where you shouldn't really be striving to hit a landmark. You should just kind of be doing the work that is passion for you, and everything else will come with it.
Yeah, I think that definitely if we think about getting a job, there's a couple things. Being able to try something out, I think is important. I know when I got out of college, I thought I was going to take my degree and I was going to work in healthcare. So I volunteered in the emergency room just to kind of get a sense of, what that was like. Anyway, I think another point that you mentioned that was a skill that I didn't learn until much later in life, or just didn't understand the importance of it, was networking. So you mentioned you never know who you're going to meet at a volunteering opportunity. And that's so true. Like the kids are able to maybe bump into someone who opens another door for them that they didn't even realize was there. So again, I think for parents, if your school's not making it mandatory to expose you to volunteering, what are some ways that parents can encourage their children to ignite that passion?
I know that we, like, kind of depending on what your age, where your kids' ages are, makes a difference. So making it age appropriate, like when our kids were younger, we would make sandwiches and we would take them in downtown Raleigh and we would pass them out. In the wintertime, we would get blankets on sale and we'd pass that out to the homeless. And so we did that with them. And so that was just like self-initiated volunteering, but it opened our kids' eyes to see needs beyond what they'd seen before. And so I think doing things together as a family, Activate Good has some really great opportunities where families can serve together. And so if a teen or a child's nervous about doing it individually or on their own, doing it together in that family group is great. Or when they're older, like we've watched, I have 2 daughters, our daughters serve together. They might not want, their parents around anymore, but to have somebody else, kind of that camaraderie to grab a friend and making it fun. Or I don't know about any other parents out there. There's also, kids are competitive. And so for family, you can also put a little competition and make it worth their while, maybe paying for a tank of gas, or maybe a favorite family meal or something for the person that's doing the most, or that sort of thing. Again, we want it to be for the right reasons, that they're doing it out of their heart, but sometimes just to kind of get it going is for them to be able to find their place. Those are just some things that we've tried in our own family that have been fun to make it fun. It has to be fun. These kids, they want there to be meat behind it. They want there to be purpose behind it. And they also want it to be fun and engaging, and they want to make sure that they're feeling like they're making a difference.
Yeah, I definitely recommend, going as a group, as a family together, as siblings. Activate Good. We recently launched our family program, Activate Kids, which is our family program that we do once a month for families with kids ages 5 to 10. And we have restructured our learn and serve model for it to be digestible. The content that we teach the families for a 5 to 10-year-old age kid to understand and to connect with. So, we have a subject matter expert who they're probably a part of the organization that we're putting the work towards or they are someone who is just an expert in this cause area. And they teach the kids, like, does anybody know what it means to be homeless? Why might someone be homeless? And letting the kids kind of answer the best way that they can. And it's really fun to see, kids are aware of what's happening in their community, whether they learned it in school or, they talked about it with their parents. And, their parents are also leading by example by doing the same work that their kids are doing. And we've been very fortunate to see quick success in this program. I believe we just hit over 100 families who have been interested in the program. And for the most part, we are growing full capacity. And it's really interesting too, because we're starting to see a lot of the same families come back. So they're starting to the parents are getting to know each other, and the kids are starting to see each other and recognize each other. So I'm really excited to see like what the future holds for this program to kind of create that, community and third place too, even though it's once a month for them. And then also with that, our teen program, the Youth Volunteer Corps of the Greater Triangle, that's the program we're trying to make more of a club feel. It's for 11 to 18-year-olds. And the goal is to teach their leadership and life skills. And we have been getting a much more influx of siblings coming together. When I chat with parents, I was like, oh, well, one of them drives. So when she goes, she'll drag the other one along. And, it's really great. Like, I was like, yeah, bring your 14-year-old sibling out. You guys can do it together. Because also when you're doing it with either your friends or your siblings, it makes it easier. And also there are some tasks that may be awkward to do at first. For instance, when we volunteer at the diaper bank, people had never thought we'd be wrapping diapers, opening the bag and then, doing a special cling wrap presentation. And for one project that we had, I think I had 4 boys who were on the same soccer team. And, as you said, making competitive, I was like, who can wrap the most diapers in the next 15 minutes? And, they'll get to work because they're making it interesting for them. And I've been very fortunate to see some of them come back, and some of them, now their whole team is trying to work together to get a project done. And by making it fun, they forget that they're actually, they don't feel like they're doing service. They're just doing an activity that they're starting to enjoy together. There's so many different ways for them to get involved. And I encourage all families to really get out there and, showcase, the world to their kids, whether it's one time, just, never make it forceful, because you really want it to, you want the intention to be there. Because if you're forcing their kids to go, they're going to feel like they're forced. And that really changes the energy for the group and for that one person's experience. If you try something you don't like, you can change again. If you don't like it the first time, definitely go back a second time, because maybe your first experience could be the outlier. So, I would say definitely, give things a second try before you completely close the door on that as well.
Makes sense. And Amy, how can families leverage Givefinity in their volunteering journeys?
Yeah. So having a daughter who's in college and knowing kind of what that looks like to apply to colleges, Givefinity is a great, easy to use mobile app for your students to kind of track their journey and what they've done. So you can download it and you can track it so that when you're filling out applications, whether that's a college application or a job application, I've learned that my memory, it's like, oh, what did she do freshman year and sophomore year? And it can be a blur, especially if it was for shorter stints. So Givefinity captures all that information after you enter it into an app, and you can print off a report so that you can jog your memory as you're applying for schools or scholarships or jobs of different ways that you've made an impact, leadership opportunities that you've had in different ways, just to be able to differentiate yourself and articulate who you are as a person and what you're passionate about. If your school is using pen and paper to track their volunteer time, would love an introduction. Would love to help them streamline that. And also, as a parent, I'm also always happy to brainstorm different ideas. I see so much importance in getting out there and volunteering, and I'm always happy to talk to parents about different ways to help them get their teens engaged.
Sounds like a great tool. So I love to ask my guests a question. If you could grant a superpower to parents, what superpower would you grant them? And Amy, I'll start with you.
Okay, so I love this question. There's so many superpowers I would love to grant to parents. I think the biggest one that comes to mind is seeing the potential in others. And specifically for parents, being able to see the potential in your kids. It is so easy, and I am speaking to myself when I say this, to be in the weeds and see everything that is maybe going wrong or that our kids aren't doing well. And I think if we flip it and look at it more from a 20,000 feet view, that we see they are doing really good things. And when we were kids, we were trying to figure it out too, at that age. And so just seeing the potential in them of who they can be and kind of reminding them of that. I think I would do that. I think that we put a lot of pressure on ourselves as parents. And so if we could just have that superpower, and it is so much easier said than done, to see the potential in our kids and be their advocates and their cheerleaders, I think it would make the
kind
parenting
of like
world.
X-ray vision, but perspective vision.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
How about you, Ethan?
I'm going to be in a similar vein. I'm going to say just the power of open-mindedness. There are so many factors into a child's development based off of, what they're taught in the home. And it's so interesting to see because especially, I'm a young adult and I am, a lot of my people in my community are soon to become parents or starting to become parents. And also for a lot of new parents, I'm always constantly hearing the term, it's not about me anymore. And so when I hear that, I want parents to see their kids as individual people, yes, an extension of themselves because they are family, but at the same time, there is just different generational developments that happen where maybe what your kid believes may not be in line with your own as a parent. And I, want parents to see their kids for the person that they're becoming. Everyone's entitled to speak their piece and speak their mind. But I feel like there is this emphasis sometimes of parents really trying to control the life that their kids are going to have. And obviously it's out of protection, it's out of love. I think by being able to tell kids to, see people for who they are is going to be a very powerful tool for them growing up because everyone around them is different. And, you never know where people's backgrounds are. And if you're able to see them for who they are, it's going to create much more positive space because people are going to be more accepted. And I feel like all parents should be able to see that point of view.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it fosters a growth mindset too. So such a great superpower. Well, I really have enjoyed our conversation today, Ethan and Amy. Thank you so much for being here and telling us a little bit about your journey into volunteerism and helping guide parents in opportunities that their kids can have and the importance of it. So I really appreciate having you on here today.
Oh, thanks so much for having us on. It's been a joy.
Great. Thanks, guys.
As we wrap up today's episode of Parenting Pioneers, we want to extend a heartfelt thank you to our guests, Ethan and Amy, for their invaluable insights into the world of youth volunteerism. Their stories and experiences remind us of the powerful impact volunteering can have on our children's development, sense of community, and preparation for the future. To our listeners, we hope this conversation inspires you to explore volunteer opportunities with your own children, helping them find their passions and make a meaningful difference in the world. Remember, every small act of service contributes to a larger change. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, share it with other parents in your community, and follow us on social media for the latest updates and more inspiring content. Thanks for sharing this moment with us. We look forward to the next one. Until then, go and be the best parent you can be. We're rooting for you.